Yeah, we're just waiting on a response to see if we'll be able to hook up our
When
tools.
did we prep them? That's a good question.
When did you prep them?
When?
Yes, yep.
Yes. I need to be able to. Oh, go on, sorry.
No. Damn.
Technical difficulties. That's
Yeah,
okay.
neither of us have either.
I mean, it's relatively new, so we're all trying our best.
Yeah, none of us have. That's a good point.
Goats into panel. What crimes will they commit? Many,
So
many,
many crimes.
so many
Fictionkin
crimes.
related crimes. That's how many.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
just in time. Tax fraud. Yoke panel.
A yoke panel,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm loving this chat today. Oh, so wonderful.
I should have had my yoke profile picture for the con. And then it
SMAs.
could have been 3 oats.
Yeah, it could have been.
It could have been 3 oats. Oh, what could have been?
3 oats, all drawn by Peregrine as well.
Yeah, very true.
Ah, that's
Done.
that's very uncool.
Wonderful.
Wow. You think
Wonderful.
we could? Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. Yeah,
yeah, that works.
yeah. We made some slides, and they look quite nice.
They
Uh,
do, they do.
maybe
Or we'd be able to, like,
yeah.
panel voice chat. Yeah, no.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much, then.
Thank you. If you have the slides, would you
Oh
like
yeah.
to?
Okay. So do you want me to screenshot the slides? Just send the artwork, no fancy slide backgrounds, or
That would be wonderful. I mean, fancy slide backgrounds are nice. We can do fancy slide
they
backgrounds.
look quite nice. I'm
They
worried about
do.
the quality. So I mean, if the quality's shit, we'll just send it as the original. But this might be a bit easier, just so I can only send 3 photos instead of like 6.
Mhm.
Okay, screenshotting them now. So they might be really bad quality.
Oh, we'll see. Yeah, that's a good question.
Good question.
What
I'm
is?
still pondering that myself. Um, okay, all 3 of them.
Oh, no, it's all a coyote.
Ah, one of them cropped weird. Oh well.
Okay.
There we go.
Pretend
And
they're coming up as
plus,
we talk.
yeah,
Pretend we're flipping.
pretend that they're in order and
Yeah,
we're like presenting them as we speak. Oh,
it's happening.
it's
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
amazing. Oh, truly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, do we want to get started?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, we can hop right into it. Sometime soon. Yeah, we'll just start with some introductions. So, hello, my name is Romulus. My figure types are Castiel from Supernatural and Stephen Strange from Marvel, both movie and several comic iterations. I go by these names and prefer to be referred to as such characters. I'm also Deep Sea Paradox on Artist Alley, so if you're interested in learning a bit more about me, go check that out.
Hello, I am Mullis or Peregrine, either or is totally fine. I am OC kin with my pony Zeno from both the Friendship is Magic and Full Equestria universe. I identify as Felicity Fox from Fantastic Mr. Fox, Abigail from NBC's Hannibal, and Danny from Midsummer. So there might be very vague spoilers for my fictional sources. Probably nothing overly major, but just as like a warning, there might be vague spoilers for those.
Yeah, epic. So just a little bit about this panel. So this panel is about exploring how being fictionkin interacts with daily ongoings. We'll be delving into negatives and positives with reference to our own experiences and leave room for questions kind of near the end. So keep in mind that this panel is essentially a conversational podcast, as the entire thing is relatively unscripted. So obviously, as Perry had mentioned, there will be spoilers, sort of vague. I can't guarantee anything. And then also just a brief trigger warning, discussion of injury, general themes of violence, and sources. We might give a heads up right before that happens if any of that is upsetting. And then also, just again, if you have burning questions, make sure to jot it down because at the end there will be a question segment. So yeah, let's hop into the panel itself. Um, we could talk about we could talk about source trauma first. That sound good?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I could start if
So
you want to. You can, yeah,
absolutely, go
either way.
on. You start. Go for it.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've got just brief definitions. Yeah, I'm really hogging up the whole panel here, but so I'm kind of reading this definition right off the wiki. I copied it. So exotrauma is a catch-all for traumatic experiences that did not occur in this universe slash life, but still affect a person negatively. So we're going to kind of be using exotrauma, source trauma, that word quite frequently. That's just kind of a brief on what exactly that word is. So if you want to hop into your experiences first, you absolutely can. I could as well. Either way works with me.
So basically, two of my sources, which is Midsummer and NBC's Hannibal, are quite traumatic. And dealing with that, especially during long-term shifts that I thought were like perma shifts at the time, they didn't turn out to be, thankfully. But dealing with source trauma has been quite a big thing for me when it comes to Fictionkinity being a part of my daily life. So heads up for spoilers for Hannah specifically. Um, this is the spoiler. This is the major spoiler. So the character I identify as has some quite severe injuries, and experiencing those, especially whilst watching it, has been a big thing for me when it comes to soul trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that quite a bit. As a fellow fictionkin person who one of their types slash multiple of their types, etc., and flickers as well have, and just fake spoilers. Not really that fake because I'm not saying which one it is, but died on screen at some point. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in,
It
definitely.
is. It is. I'll
Yeah, it
say.
really is. 100%. I think exotrauma is something that I really, really like kind of hearing folks' opinions about
Mhm.
because I think a lot of fictionkin folks have had this experience. And for a while, I didn't have a word for it because I didn't totally search for one. And so when I had found the word exotrauma, I think, I don't know, maybe I think it was like 4 months ago. And I
Mhm.
DM'd you and I was like, hey, do you know what this
There's a
word is?
word.
There's a word for the thing we have. Um,
Yeah. I had
yeah.
no idea what the word was. And I think like it's kind of nice in a way to know that it's not like you're not alone in having that experience, and you're not alone in having like maybe the not so fun parts of being fiction kin. And like there are other people that go through it, and like not in a like we can all suffer together, but
Yeah.
like we know what it's like and we can relate.
Yeah, I joke quite a bit about your source in particular, Hannibal, just being like,
Mhm.
"Wow, that's a terrible source to have."
It
Not in the
kind
sense
of
that like,
is.
yeah, being fictionkin is terrible, but in the sense that like,
Yeah.
wow, that's a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
And I've personally experienced Will Graham Flickers, who is main character from that source, and wow, it's not fun. And
It
so
sure
I feel
is.
great about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hannibal
I
being
also
such a lovely source. I know we have a Hannibal in chat, so
we do. We do.
oh, run, heart emoji.
Hannibal is a source to hat. It sure is.
Yeah, it sure
Um,
is.
Hannibal in the chat.
Hannibal
War
in the
crimes
chat.
leak in there. But
Yeah,
yeah, I also identify as Danny from Midsummer, and I don't know if anyone's seen that film, but that is also a wild ride when it comes to source trauma. Simple.
yeah. I haven't personally seen Midsummer. You've given me a bit of
Hmm.
kind of like a briefing on what it is, and Yeah, it's definitely something. I think we've kind of got different viewpoints, just like kind of based off of our sources. Like I would go as far to say that my sources aren't quite as horrific as yours at times, and that's interesting in and of itself. And so I think that does kind of affect kind of how I perceive things. But I think moving into the next little bit of talk that we have, how fictionkinity changes the way that you present yourself, which I think I'm just going to check the pins really quick, is technically the third slide. It's technically the
Mhm.
third slide. um, if you want to hop into
Copious
that
amount
first,
there.
yeah.
We would have a slide for this, but
Yeah,
alas.
we do, I promise.
Wonderful. The slide's a pin if you would like to look at
Yeah.
the city little doodles.
It is, truly. So yeah, in my experiences, definitely appearance, fashion, everything plays such a big part in outwardly presenting myself and my identity, which you could argue are the same things. And I think the big one that I always kind of bring up and laugh about is that um, at any point possible. I wear a trench coat. I wear it very consistently, but even though it's summer right now, I'll still kind of hang out and bounce around in it. But I know, especially like appearances as well. Despite the fact I normally I dye my hair quite a bit, I am in fact bald right now. I'm going through chemotherapy, so I don't have hair. But when I do, I often I'll cut it or dye it. Have quite some fun, kind of matching it to my types. So that's quite an experience.
Mhm. I mean, I currently hair dye copious amounts of hair dye. My hair is currently dyed to look exactly like my pony's owner, Mullers, in
Yeah.
the real. Yes.
Yes. Fuller's in the real. Yeah,
In
stealing
the
your types
real.
gang. Yeah, absolutely. I think hair is it's such a fun thing to play around with when your type has hair that you can just give yourself, you know? Like
Mhm.
I just such a good thing.
I feel like especially it kind of bridges that gap, like with accessories and like clothing and hair color and doing things to maybe make yourself look a little bit more like your fictotypes. It's
Yeah,
very nice to like be able to look in the mirror and go, "Oh, hey,
yeah,
I look like me." Or like a version of me, or the way I might see myself. And especially like during shifts, I find that I have like various dresses and like for Abigail, especially scarves, and it's nice to be able to put something on and be able to go, oh, huh, yeah, this feels correct.
yeah. 100%. I also think there's kind of something to say um with like almost the perception of your picture type as something separate than I guess what you directly see of them either on screen in a book, etc. Um, I think it's really interesting exploring like how you kind of perceive that character as yourself, especially over time. You know, when it is you. It's kind of interesting bridging the gap between what the actor looks like and what you look like just actually in real life currently. Even if your type is like some kind of an animal. I mean, I know also as a theory, and it's really interesting to kind of see how that plays out, I guess. I'm not totally sure if I'm kind of getting the idea across correctly, but I think it's quite neat. Just seeing yourself as a character despite not being actor, etc., writer who plays or writes the character.
Absolutely. And I feel like there's also kind of the other way around sometimes with like, wait, that actor doesn't look like me. Huh, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah,
I feel like that's also very interesting.
I think that makes me like really happy. I've only had that quite a few times, and I know Orb in chat has absolutely mentioned it once or twice. And it's so neat. It's a really nice feeling, kind of looking at screen and looking at the screen for my experiences in particular, and being a bit alienated. Like, hey, that that's not my face. Um, and just having it really be your face in your brain, especially if you've been away from the source for some period of time. It's very neat.
Mhm. Absolutely agreed. But yeah, like the kind of little things that just make you feel like more that you can do daily to make you feel like kin type is very, very fun. And I thoroughly enjoy that.
Yeah, hell yeah. If you want to move on to the next little talking point I've got,
Absolutely.
got a whole bunch of these little funky ones. So, how does having certain types change your viewpoints, like being in shifts affecting state of mind, etc.?
Me specifically, I would say a big thing for me is affecting how I can look at my source.
Yeah, absolutely. I get that quite a bit.
Like maybe I know, especially with the Simmer and Hannibal for me, I can maybe see my sources in a way that other people might not look at them because I can see them through the viewpoint of somebody watching the film, the source, or the series, but also from the viewpoint of being that character and of than me. Um, but like I feel like the experience of having that different viewpoint and being able to bring certain things to maybe a discussion about the media or the source or the like is just very interesting to be able to have that unique viewpoint because it's like actually from the viewpoint of that character.
Yeah, I think I really agree. I would get shifts quite a bit, especially watching, I think, Supernatural in particular. I'll say both of my sources for sake of simplicity, but um, especially just watching and having a shift and your brain it kind of inserting you into whatever scene's going on, etc. It's really quite interesting being able to kind of put yourself in the shoes of a character you identify as when they're on screen. Even when they're off screen, I think there's also something to say about kind of perceiving different. I know we've spoken about this quite a bit actually, like almost made up memories. That's the best phrase I've got for it. Like, what happens off screen in your brain for you, for that character. Because there's always something implied, but I think being fictionkin changes your perception of whatever's happening off screen at some point of time, especially if you're absent for episodes, seasons, movies, etc. So, how does that? I know that definitely plays into your experiences. So, how does it?
For me personally, I would say that also plays into source trauma a lot for me because there's that kind of idea, which again, Hannibal spoilers, I know we said, um, but being left for a huge portion of time kind of plays into source trauma because it's not specifically said what happened during that span of time for me, but I have the memories of it, and I believe I know what happened, and that's all stuff my brain has made up.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
but like in character brain, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been, I think again, I'll just go with Supernatural specifically, entire scenes, episodes, etc., that my brain has just made up, and for some reason, I think happened somewhere along the line, despite the fact that in the visual canon, it didn't. Um, and making your own canon, it's fine. It's good.
Hmm.
That's okay. I think
Absolutely.
um, there's always been something around psychological fiction kin. And I just think that it should be said that it's very neat that sometimes fandoms kind of influence your experiences, memories, etc. And I think that's perfectly fine and neat. I know that in some cases it absolutely does for me, and um, kind of having memories and different scenarios from a source kind of created in your own brain. It's it's really cool, and I find it incredibly
Absolutely.
interesting and very awesome. I really appreciate whenever you talk about your kind of, alternate universe. I don't know if you wanna share that here with the
I would
Hannibal stuff,
absolutely
but
love to.
it's so neat.
And I think especially like things that have come out of the fandom like art and stuff has influenced these memories for me in quite a way. But basically I have two sets of memories for Abigail. I have the memories of stuff that actually happened in the canon, which are the bad ones.
Yeah.
I have a
Yep.
time in canon, but I also have a version of the memories where things didn't go as terribly, and they feel just as real to me, even though I know full well they didn't happen on screen. They're not canon. I know that, but that doesn't stop them from feeling any less real to me. And
Yeah.
I feel like that idea of having memories that you've created and AUs that you've created to maybe make it a little bit easier for yourself, especially if you have a traumatic source, is absolutely okay to do. And it's so okay for those to feel just as real to you as the actual source does.
Yeah, 100%. I think I think about that quite a bit, especially with the almost kind of coping thing. Um, so I know that there are obviously different definitions for different experiences, but I also think that there can 100% be an overlap, especially with being fictionkin, because I think there are so many things to being fictionkin, especially if your character is in something that you haven't personally created yourself. And it's really, I think it's really interesting and neat how you can kind of tweak the canon and make it your own kind of thing. But it can also be really, really helpful for certain situations, like when the canon is really shitty. Um, I'm
Yep.
looking at Supernatural, and it can kind of be nice sometimes to think about something a certain way and then slowly along the line maybe you haven't seen the source in a few weeks and you realize that that is what you had believed the canon to be. You go back, watch it, you're like, oh, this isn't what I remember seeing. I thought this ended well. I think that's really, really cool how our brains can kind of do that and
Mhm.
help experiences either come on a little bit easier or just kind of make a bit more sense, especially if you feel like it's the little things as well. If you feel like the character that you identify as isn't talking in character, and you just kind of tweak it in your brain and you're like, yep, that's a bit better. I know that happens quite a bit, and I'm like, yep, all right, that works. That's all good. And it's really interesting when you have a super kind of slightly canon aligned identity, other than identifying as a species from something or a non canon character. Identifying as a character that's on screen can be a bit confusing when the character on screen is saying something that isn't adjacent to what you think you'd say in that situation. I just always worth mentioning. So neat.
I feel like the idea of like self-made canon
Yeah.
um is especially like it's a very big thing for me because I identify as my OC. Again, my pony owner. I have two self-insert, I suppose, versions of her. One in the full Equestria universe and one in the Adventures of Magic universe.
Oh yeah.
And I'll have maybe different ideas of things that happened in those universes, but they're like obviously I'm never on screen. I'm never there because I made myself up.
Yeah.
Um, but the things that happened in canon do affect my experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of leads into my next little bit of like, oh, what? How do we feel about this one? What are your experiences with specifically kind of making your own canon with either original character stuff like that, with regards to role play or art, just kind of making it your own? Because I know I've experienced, personally on my end of this, I've had flickers of an original character for maybe a few years now, and it's always really cool to kind of see how that plays out after. Because I'll role play quite a bit, and that becomes the canon for that character because obviously this
Absolutely.
character isn't in television, movies, books, anything. The character's just in whatever you're creating, and so you can kind of make it it's really odd how it feels like you've got a sense of control over that situation, but then once it's happened, it's solidified in your brain, and that's the canon for that character. I just so cool.
I have exactly the same thing because the canon Mullers in the full Equestria universe is very much so dictated by a roleplay I'm in, and it feels like I have control over what happens to me and the directions that I go in, but also I don't because it's affected by the way other people interact with me. And
Yeah.
that sort of it feels completely different from the way I experience my other kin types because the canon there is already set. I know what happens to me. Um, I can't change it. I know what happens. But with roleplay and a character that is still, like Rome said, you decide the way it goes, and canon is what you make it. That's really interesting for me because it feels like I am not just watching myself live my life, but actively living it. If that makes sense, like I'm actively choosing the way I go instead of just watching it and going, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, 100%. It gives you a lot more freedom with things like when you're kind of in that character mindset, especially if it's quite similar to your own and you aren't, you kind of you get to move the characters and say, no, this is correct, as opposed to being a canon character and watching something and saying, that's not correct. No, that didn't happen. That's different in my brain. Uh, it's so neat. I think that roleplay is such a wonderful format for doing all sorts of things. I think it's really great, and I don't know if I've ever explored it other than that one original character that I'll sometimes get flickers of, but I think at some point in the future, it would be really neat to kind of see how that plays out in my brain and with canon, either tweaking scenes that are in canon that I don't fully agree with, or just having whole new scenes that play out how they do. I'd really like to see if that would work properly in my brain and work with canon in my brain. I just think it would be neat. So I might do that at some point. I'm looking at chat.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Or
wholeheartedly recommend it. Like, so much fun. Very, very cool.
it's wonderful. It's so
I
neat.
cannot recommend it enough. Awesome, awesome stuff.
Yeah, it is. So I think that that moves us into our next point. Um, of badly timed shifts and how that plays
Oh.
into mindset. This is always a fun one to discuss with any facet of the elder human community. As a Etherean myself, yeah, I get it. It's something, and I think it really depends on the type specifically. But wow, badly timed shifts. Do you want to hop into that one first?
I would love to. I love how we say bodily time shift and everyone's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Everyone's like, oh
understood.
god, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Everyone
I
gets it.
I feel like even if you're not fictionkin,
Yep.
like if you're Etherean or Peregrine, etc., 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 it's kind of a universal experience. But I feel like fictionkin specifically, um, like being in character, I suppose, and thinking the way that my fictive types would. Sometimes that's very inconvenient.
Yeah.
If I'm sat there, minding my own business, doing something, and suddenly my brain descends upon me, and it's like, hey, 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 Abigail shift happening right now, right here, right now, and I'm sat in a class, and I'm like, please no, and it's like, yeah, missing
Mhm.
characters from your scene, the whole shebang. There you go. Have fun. And there's not a lot I can do about it. Like,
Yeah, the being in class and getting a shift. I just wrapped up my senior year of high school this past year, and oh my lord, especially when you're talking with other folks as well and you're having a shift, it's like, ah, this is great. I know my experience with it has been more so that I just kind of I'm a lot less talkative and a bit more somber, and I'm trying to focus on the task at hand. Someone's like, "Hey, how's your day going? Oh my gosh, I love your outfit." And I'm like, "Uh, I don't want to talk right now. I've got places to be, by the way." And then I have to think
mhm.
about it. I'm like, thank you. Thank you very much." Move on past it. But badly timed shifts. What type of yours would you say has the worst badly timed shifts? I'm quite
The
curious.
worst badly timed shit. I mean,
Yeah.
I had like I want to say several month long. I can't really remember how long it was. Abigail shift, and it was just constant. It was like, oh, you're going to bed, you're going to sleep. Oh no, you're not. And that was very annoying, I think. And
Yeah.
especially at the point in the canon that I was having the shifts of, it just sort of consisted of like being a little bit upset.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like, and I know in my heart of hearts, because obviously, um, like, depending on how deep in the shift I am, I can go, I'm literally fine. I'm like, I'm vibing. And Abigail Brain is like, no, no, you're not. That was very badly
You're not vibing, heart emoji. Yeah, I
not vibing.
I think I don't know if I would weigh for my experiences personally, the emotional ones or the really not emotional ones as more badly timed when they are. Because I think there's definitely something there with the emotional ones of being in a public place and just starting to cry because you're like, "Oh,
Oh,
fuck,
yeah.
this thing happened. This thing definitely happened. It happened. Oh no, I'm so sad." Or just being someplace, especially when you're talking with other folks or you're supposed to be talking with other folks and you're just like, "Hmm, I'm gonna leave this situation. I'm
Mhm.
gonna walk away quietly.
Yeah.
I have no reason to be here." Because I think they're both quite I mean, they're both inconvenient in different situations,
Mhm.
and they kinda lend themselves badly. But
And I feel like, sorry, I go on,
no,
finish
no,
your thought
no,
then.
you're good.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, but it's interesting. No, you go ahead.
I feel like a big thing for me is obviously in the full Equestria universe, society is not a friendly place. And I'll kind of be sat there and I'll be in a situation, maybe I'm talking to someone that I don't know that well, or I'm in the middle of a big open area, and full out Moa's brain is just like, mm no, we're not doing this. And I'll be
Yeah,
sat there in the middle of a conversation, and my brain's just like, what are we doing? What is this? What is this? What is happening here? And I'm like, I don't know. Society is a fine place at the moment. Thank you very much. And full up brain is like, mm no, it's not. That's very annoying, and that's very inconvenient timing when I
yeah,
feel like in a situation that my fictional types would maybe be very adverse to, but I want to be in that situation. And it's kind of like different mindset now. Here we go.
yeah. Thinking of, like, when you're in a really strong shift and you're doing something, and you suddenly have this realization, you're like, "Oh, this thing's going on. Oh shit, I've gotta do this thing." And you've kinda gotta coax yourself back to realizing there's no thing, there's not a thing. I think for me specifically, it happens a lot with a lot of the world-ending things that happen in both of my sources. I'll just kind of be going about my day and suddenly realize like, "Oh no, I have to go fix this. Oh my goodness." And
hmm
then you don't need to fix it. It's not there right now.
The
But
thing is
it sure feels
fine,
like it.
but we don't think the thing is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
We don't think the thing
iffy,
is fine. Yeah.
really.
Yeah. It can be quite something, but, with all the bad and of course, there is a lot. I think I want to address how does being fictionkin improve life? How does it make things better? How does it enrich your life and make you more open to new experiences?
Yeah, that's a very interesting one, I feel, because there's that difference between, yeah, the trauma sucks, but also it's really cool. Obviously not the trauma, but the whole thing is really, really cool to be able to like have all of these memories and all of these experiences from like a life that you identify as in that experience. But like it's something you wouldn't have if you weren't fiction. These relationships with different characters and experiences and such. And maybe experiences that you wouldn't be able to have if you didn't identify as that character. And like being able to look at, yeah, like someone's attracted to like art and stuff and having different viewpoints, interesting experience, and I feel one that's so unique to identifying as a fictional character in some way.
Yeah. It's really cool. I think for me a lot, it has lended itself really well to art and that kind of jazz. I think, specifically with being Steven, I really love drawing artifacts and that kind of jazz, and that's helped me draw and learn how to draw different kinds of metals and crystals and stuff like that. And so it's kind of helped me progress both my art style and how I feel about certain things in canon. Um, and it's really fun. It's really quite neat, but it's not just art. It's your perception of things. It's how you interact with folks, and I think it's helped me create. I don't know. It's helped me create a stronger foundation um, in my brain on how I perceive myself and how I perceive certain things happening because I know that as somebody who, especially with one of my sources, Marvel specifically, I'm really a big fan of a lot of Marvel things. I read a lot of comics and I watch all of the movies, all of the shows, and I consume a lot of fan content and make it. And so I think it's really cool how I can be able to consume fan content and listen to what other people think about my character specifically and it just sorry, I just got a text, nothing major, but I think it's really cool how I can kind of perceive that in my own way and either agree or disagree, and it's been able to give me more of a voice, especially in fandoms and whatnot, in my brain mostly, of being able to think like, I agree with what this person has said, or I don't agree. Because I think that sometimes it's difficult to form opinions when folks are speaking really eloquently and their point seems like fact, even if it's subjective. And I think it's really cool to be able, like we were talking about earlier, create your own canon and just really perceive that in your own way. I'm reading the chat. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you have opinions on that.
Hmm. Thinking noises.
Yeah, no thinking noises.
Hmm.
Um,
I don't know. I
I
feel like I wholeheartedly agree with you as well. Like it's
yeah.
just the biggest like big thing for me. I know I've like said this, but just having that viewpoint is just so unique. And oh, also yes, another thought. My brain's had a thought. Source mates and being able to
Yeah.
talk to them about your experience is also a very unique thing, and like that bringing you closer to people, I suppose. Like, hello, yeah, I'm Hannibal. Ren, I'm looking at you. um, like that, just as an experience and being able to talk about your experience with other people that understand it. Yeah, that's just great. That's just
Yeah.
great. Source mates when they work out well.
Source mates when they work out well. Yeah. Always prefacing source mates with always be careful. Use common sense on the internet. Um, and source mates when they work out. Absolutely wonderful. Um,
Absolutely.
they're great. I absolutely adore the source mates that I know, and it's very lovely. Source mates can be really,
Absolutely.
really helpful sorting out feelings and kind of also sorting out different opinions, like I'm talking about earlier. It's like I just I really appreciate being able to speak with somebody who has similar experiences, or even if they don't, I'll get to that later. Speaking with a source mate who has similar experiences is wonderful. Um, it really helps kind of work through different things, and even if you don't have a source mate, sometimes just talking to yourself in your brain about things with full
Mm,
understanding it can also be very nice, but like I was saying, when you have a source mate and you have different opinions on something, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. Um, because you kind of get to hear this other thing that maybe your brain wouldn't have perceived earlier. Like if you don't personally agree with a scene, and your source mate might agree with that scene, it's really cool to hash it out a bit in a friendly way, and talk it over,
mhm.
and kind of compare notes, your brain
Yeah,
notes.
absolutely. Comparing brain nodes
Yeah,
and
brain
maybe like
notes.
being able to see certain scenes, cough, cough, that one scene in Hannibal, cough, cough, cough. And being able to maybe like discuss that with characters that might see it in a different way.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that's really interesting. I know I've had so many conversations about maybe why certain things happen.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
100%.
just such a wonderful part of being fiction guy,
Yeah, I should also, just a quick heads up, very funky announcement. I do have something arriving, a delivery at the door that I'm gonna need to answer in like 5 minutes. So
That is
I'll go
very,
silent
very
for,
good.
but I'll give you a heads up. I'll let you know. And you can either talk or just kind of answer what chat's going on. We'll hop
Absolutely.
into questions soon, but I still
Mhm.
got some more things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So um, oh, sorry, I lost the document for a second. Let's
That's
talk about
totally okay.
flickers.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yes.
what's your
You wanna go
experience
first?
with that? Oh, I, I
You
can
can
go
go first if you
first if
want.
you'd like. Yeah, I'll go first. So flickers. I experienced quite a few. Flickers
Oh,
definition.
yeah,
Yes.
definition.
Um, so I'll let me just pull up a definition because actually, you know what? It's fine. I know this word well enough. So it's experiencing essentially cameo shifts of fictional characters, species, etc., um, but not either permanently identifying as them or it not being your fiction type. So it can be anything that lasts from short period of time, long period of time, can be just perceiving yourself as that character, can be fully imagining yourself as that character. I got a little bit brain goop for a second there. But
Hey,
yeah, flickers are
worry not.
very neat. Yeah. So
Yeah, Flick is so much
yeah, what my experience with flickers is that I think I've experienced maybe like a dozen or so different characters, flickers of characters specifically, from all sorts of different sources. So from either original characters, movies, television, books. Actually, not that many from books actually, but it's sort of across the board. And I love flickers. I think they're really cool, and I always talk positively about them, except for Will Graham flickers. But
fun. Oh, heard of them. You glorious sauce.
yeah, Will Graham flickers are um
Mhm.
genuinely some of my least favorite things. Uh,
Yep.
mostly because I think it is the source trauma, but they make me feel quite ill. And sorry, that's kind of just that's really it. I saw most of Hannibal with Peregrine actually.
I
Um,
cried so much.
yeah, yeah, it cried quite a good deal. And I just kind of I dissociated a lot.
Mhm.
That was just a
Yep.
lot of the Will Graham. That was the Will Graham talking. And so I really love flickers. I think it's great to gain a different perspective, and even with characters that make you feel like shit when you get flickers of them, Will Graham. I still think it's really neat and interesting to be able to explore that kind of role in life. I love having experienced Will Graham flickers before going through bad medical treatment because it just they both don't make you feel physically well. And
And I can imagine.
it
I
was
can
something.
imagine.
I was like, huh, wow, I really feel like Will Graham today physically. Just like, being sick all day and whatnot. So it does provide interesting insights. Of course, I don't like the shitty ones for long. I wouldn't expect that many folks would. But the ones that are great, they sure are great.
That's so much fun.
They are. I've been experiencing flickers for ah as many years as I can think of. And some of the earlier ones, of course, when I didn't have definitions for it, it's just so cool. I remember often going to the theater with my family and coming back and being like, hell yeah, I'm this cool character. Look at me being cool and like walking a certain way and talk. Oh,
Oh my
sorry.
god, that's such a good point, actually.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
such
yeah.
a good point.
I
I feel like so many more people experience flickers than they realize.
Yeah, 100%. You go off on that one. Hold on.
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Ah, okay, so people experiencing flickers. I'll also be looking at the chat in this little portion. when we are Romulus, unfortunately. I feel like a lot more people experience flickers than they realize. Like, when you hear about people watching a series and they're like, "Oh wow, I acted in a different way after I watched this series, and like I felt like I was in the series and I felt like I was acting like a certain character." And I'm like, "Honey, I think that's a flicker." um, yeah, and I feel like that's just such an interesting part of seeing other people that maybe don't know what flickers are or don't know what like the experience of being fictionkin is, and you're like, yeah, like, there's a word for that. I just think that's so interesting. I remember somebody asked me a question earlier. I think it was Ron, so I will answer that one now. Do I ever make fake scars in some way? Yes, I do. Lots and lots of my fictor types. By I mean lots and lots, I mean two. uh, two of my fictor types have major scars, and a phantom shift is really really interesting. Like experiencing phantom shifts with a human character is just a really interesting experience because it's like, huh, this is new, and I don't know, that's just very funky. I feel it's very cool. Hello, you returned. Are we no longer Romulus? I don't know, so I will keep waffling for a bit. But yeah, Flickers are just very interesting experience. And I feel like they're very nice in a way to experience something that maybe is different from your sources. Like I know it's been great fun for me when I had flickers of Twilight Sparkle at one point. And that was just lovely. It was just lovely to have that experience as something that's not like oodles of source trauma, you know? um, and experiences of maybe like unicorns as opposed to a Pegasus, which I'm a Pegasus. And experiencing that as like a different thing, or maybe like an Earth pony, is just such a nice experience to have like a viewpoint of things. Maybe it's not a ficto type for me, but as a flicker, as a temporary thing that I can just experience for a little bit, great fun, great fun. I'm not sure how long we're gonna be running this for. Castless sheds a single tear. But yeah, if anybody has some like questions in this portion, you are more than welcome to ask them. And I will answer what I can until we are no longer castless chaps, until we are no longer roamers. Um, this is a small question window, so if you have any questions to me specifically or just questions in general, go for it. In the panel real quick, as in talking in the panel, because I will ask the
Oh,
room about that one. We are no longer
my
roamless. Oh, we are
goodness.
no longer
Oh,
roamless!
bless.
Ah, no longer
I was
roamless.
talking.
Never mind.
No,
I'm so sorry.
no,
Oh
I
no,
was
we couldn't
speaking.
hear you.
I
Oh
responded to you a few
no!
times, and then you didn't respond back, and I was like, "Oh, have I said something? Did I say something wrong?"
Oh
I'm
no!
back. No, my bad. The delivery came. For those of you who were curious, I got another edible arrangement, but um, I'll get back on subject. Yeah, no, I love a good, lovely flicker that is somewhat unproblematic and just feels great, or fully unproblematic and feels great. Um, I really appreciate that. I think of in my case in particular, I really, really enjoy flickers from. I know probably most of these folks have seen Wolf Blood. I experience both Maddie and Ridian flickers, and so my brain gets a bit tied up
It's
there with things. But it's so nice. It's
mhm.
so
It's so
wonderful.
nice.
Yeah. Oh, so great. I love
I
those
had like a
characters.
problematic
Love that
experience
show.
for a bit. Mhm.
Oh yeah, very epic. Yeah, no, I
All
love that show
organic.
with all of my heart.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. I don't know. Flickers are a fun thing. I think they're fun unless they're not fun. You know,
Yeah.
They can go
Yeah,
one of two ways.
I can. Yeah, I think I agree with you, but I also think that there's a bit of a blur there. I think they can be really shitty, but also really, really neat. I like I
Yeah,
I like
agreed.
I like the range of flickers. They can
Mhm.
change as
Same.
well. Yeah, flickers are, so wonderful. Since we're technically getting to the sort of end time of this panel, despite the fact we do have quite a stretch of time before the next one, um, should we move to questions segment?
Absolutely, we should.
Okay, cool. So, how about you maybe, if folks could ping either one of us just so it highlights
Mhm.
the questions from the comments when you have a
Yeah.
question, go for it. We'll answer it. And if you have one specific for either of us, then I guess ping that one and say for this one. But either way, we'll see it because I'm now in chat.
Absolutely. I'm also in chat, so I've got an eye on what's going on.
We're waiting. We're looking at this. Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go
I
for it.
think if you do the little
I don't
hand
know
thing,
how to approve
if
things.
you do the
Yeah.
the hand button, we can call you in. I think we there we go.
Hi, hello.
Hello,
Uh,
hello.
Hello.
anyway. Oh, wait, one second. I'll turn it down so you guys don't getting an echo, as much of an echo. Anyway, one second.
No worries. I wasn't hearing
What I
too much
wanted to
about
ask
it.
is, has anyone else ever had like a flicker that actually turned out to be a permanent identity, like a
Yes.
permanent thing?
Yes.
Hugely, yeah.
Yeah. For me
Oh,
personally,
also, thank you.
that's kind of how I see them start. I record them as flickers first, and then I'll see if I'm questioning it and move from there.
So everyone knows I'm Irish. Some people hear my accent and they're like, "Where are you from?"
It's very neat.
Very cool. Very cool.
All
I'm
right.
trying to
Looks like
scroll
folks are
back up
answering.
to some questions.
We've got
Are you
yeah,
just
yeah.
gonna
Okay.
show?
Romulus
Okay,
panel
here.
speakers.
Here we go. Here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question. We'll
Okay,
move
Thank you
on
very
thank
much.
to
you. Everyone says
yeah,
my
of
voice is
course.
nice. Why does everyone think my voice is nice?
So we can move on to this next one. How do you
Okay, thank you.
figure out if you're fiction kin?
How do I pop out?
I
I think
think
it's a little move to audience button, but I'm not 100%.
yes. I believe so.
I've got a question saved, so I'm holding.
Yeah, I think it's the move to audience one. The little
Mhm.
hand one. Okay, so how do you figure out if you're fiction kin? Awesome question. Do you want to have an input on that one first, Carrie, or
Um, you can go for it.
okay, sweet. Um, how do you figure it out? It's a lot. It's a long process. And I understand that for a lot of folks it actually isn't. But for me personally, it has been a long winding road that has lasted for a lot of years. In my case, I think figuring out if you're fictionkin has to do a lot with trying on labels and seeing if that fits. So, trying on
Yeah.
labels of a certain character, flicker, trying out the kin name of said character, or anything that you're questioning, anything similar in that universe. I think it's really important to see if inserting yourself in that media feels right. And if it doesn't, it's okay to back off. It's okay to keep trying and seeing if that works. I think everyone goes at their own pace, and it all depends on your comfort level. So just kind of
Mhm.
follow your own path, see what feels right. There's no set path that you need to follow. You can be wrong as many times as you'd like. That's a
Absolutely.
okay.
I feel
Um,
like that's such an important thing.
it
Like,
is.
your agency is yours, and if you feel like you make mistakes or you feel like maybe something doesn't fit you anymore, that is so okay, and you don't
Mhm,
need to like apologize for that because your identity is yours, and you're the only one that can really see where that's going, and it's up to you really. Um, but yeah, I feel like a lot of people feel bad for getting things wrong, and you shouldn't, and you don't have to because it's not anybody else's problem,
mhm,
really.
yeah.
I know that that sometimes comes off in like a "grr, not my problem" way. But I mean it in like a your identity is yours and you can do whatever you like. Really?
Yeah,
If
it's
you're not,
great.
that's okay.
Go make mistakes, please.
Hell
They're
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that
Someone else
answered
had a
everything.
question, I feel like, and
Yeah.
I've
And
screenshotted it so
scrolling.
I can't currently see the chat.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you
Um,
want to find that.
uh, has anyone felt as though you haven't been treated like an actual person due to your kinships and kins? Um, have I? I feel like sometimes maybe people feel a little bit weird with my like maybe slightly more problematic identities. Like obviously with Abigail, there's some maybe not so great things.
Yeah.
um, and I feel like sometimes people don't fully understand that and might treat me a little bit differently because of that. And unless I sit there and explain, like, no, I actually do not condone the bad things.
Yeah. I think I've had mostly positive experiences with folks reacting. There has been, I think, along the lines, just the on the disrespect line of just a bit of infantilizing with certain kin types. But I think it's been all good, and I haven't experienced that in months. And all of my friends are, of course, very respectful, so
Mm-hmm.
no, not much conflict there. Oh, I'm scrolling up. There's so many texts. I don't love how
I'm also
Discord kind of like
scrolling.
it like
If you
clicks
feel like
back.
we've missed any questions, feel free to just at either of us again. Um,
Yeah.
like go for it. 'Cause I would hate to miss
Yeah.
things.
Oh, I've got one from Ren just a bit. I'm curious as Doctor Strange, how does him seeing so many possibilities for possible versions of life affect you? Do you feel like you've aged fast, or something? A bit. That's definitely one of the big things that plays into that facet of my identity. Um, it it feels Ah, it's difficult. I think it's also really, really hard right now because I had a lot of opinions and experiences on that bit maybe a few months ago. Because it's a really funny kind of what would the word contrast be between this character and me just like here's a big difference photographic memory. I don't have a photographic memory um as not a lot of folks do, and especially now I've got chemo brain, so everything's a little bit foggy. um so I think normally it definitely does it does kind of feel like the whole aging thing. It feels a bit older. It feels a bit more kind of on this high horse of, oh, I've seen more things than you have. And I think that's just a very Doctor Strange thing. Um, those ships are they're fun, they're interesting. Um, and I would say, yeah, you've pretty much hit the nail on the head. It just feels like I've aged a bit more. Um,
Someone
okay.
asked, do you guys have any advice when you come out as fictionkin to someone you're very close to, and they don't take well to it? I feel like that's a very interesting one.
Yeah.
Telling people you're fictionkin. Um, Honestly, I don't like I feel like it really depends on who you're talking to and what specifically about it they don't understand. Like the way I break
Yeah.
it down to people is like on like a very small level. I would say, oh, to like explain it, I just say, oh, like I watched the piece of media and I sort of inserted myself into it and experienced and sort of experienced things as that character. That's kind of the way that I would really, really dumb it down.
Yeah.
But I feel like people that don't I feel like most people not taking it well comes down to ending it. Ooh, very
Yes.
interesting question. I'm saving that.
Yeah. I
Question
fully
is
agree with that. Oh wait, I was gonna add a little something to
Mhm.
that question bit, but yeah, absolutely. I think it does depend a lot on context. It does depend a lot on who the person is to you, and how they've reacted. I think in a lot of cases when it's close friends who may or may not understand it properly, and they may be trying to be respectful, but it comes off as rude to you. I think it just comes with a lot of talking and a lot of hashing it out. Because in the end, especially when it's a pal, um, they're likely willing to talk it out and try to understand. Because a lot of adverse reactions, in my experience, have just been because they just don't get it. Like you said, it just comes from a place of not understanding it. And sometimes they don't mean ill will, but if it is ill will and talking isn't working, I can't give you much advice past that. I think.
Yeah, agreed. I feel like some things like fictionkinity is complex, and sometimes people just don't get it, and
Yeah.
that sucks. But unfortunately, sometimes it's just it is what it is. I mean, obviously, I always wholeheartedly hope that people take things well, but sometimes it's just not overly easy. A question that I got, I can't speak for the other things mentioned, but I can speak for psychosis in this one question with is it common to get fiction cancer mixed up with psychosis? Because psychosis is something that I experience. Um, and I feel like no, it's not like getting the two mixed up, but sometimes for me personally, um, having psychosis can mix in with my victor types, and that sort of is part of the experience for me. Because Danny specifically and Abby both have had experiences that is very similar to the experience that I had during my psychotic episode. Um, and that sort of, I don't really know how to put it into words. Um, but do I think they can get like, is it easy to get them mixed up? Maybe not, but it is obviously because like you're your own person, and maybe things that you have will play a part in your identity because they play a part in your life.
Yeah.
Um, I know that's what it was. That's okay. So I'm trying to speak words.
No
Do I
worries.
think maybe mixed up is in the word that I would use to describe my experience with it, but playing a part in my identities because it plays a part in my life is probably the best way I would describe it for me. No
Yeah.
problem, no problem. It's a very interesting question.
Good answer. And I'm just still scrolling up here. Again, these might be so out of order. Um, how can you tell what is and isn't a flicker? We didn't answer that one, right?
I don't think we did know.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's that is a great question. I think along the line, I think sometimes what helps me is because in most cases, the flickers I experience, and even the kin types that I have aren't my favorite characters from that source. And so
Mhm.
sometimes when I think about it, I go, is this character my favorite character? And for the most part, when it's no, it's not. It probably is a flicker. Again, that's so subjective. Um, and that's I don't know if that's anyone else's case, but I usually I love just getting the flickers of the characters that I feel very mediocre about. I
Yeah,
think that's usually how it works out. But I
I
think
feel
in
like.
most cases
Oh, go on.
it's just
Sorry.
kind of yeah, no worries. It's
Sorry.
just kind of it's about perception. So maybe go about your day, see how long the flicker or not flicker might be lasting, and is it more like I'm doing this thing because I want to be like this character, or is it like I'm doing this thing I didn't realize that it was like this character? Again, so subjective. It's
Yeah,
different for everyone, but best of luck.
agreed. I feel like it's also kind of like a matter of sometimes you just gotta leave it for a bit,
Yeah,
um, and just see where things go. And I like the point of characters that you feel very mediocre about, because I know for myself personally, having flickers of characters and experiencing things the way they would for a little bit has really helped me like those characters more and maybe understand their motivations and understand their point of view. And I don't know, that was just a really interesting experience of having flickers and liking the character more for it.
yeah, absolutely. And then this one says less of a question, kind of a statement. Have you heard of experience talking? They were just talking about it in chat. It appears to be the scientific term for a flicker. I've never heard of that actually. I'm gonna be looking that up after this.
I'll have a look. That sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
69 listeners. I'm sorry, I had to. I had to.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
okay.
this one
Like,
is, does anyone else really have kin feels over a specific world? Not like the world itself, but instead of having the world feel like a source. I think I'm not sure. I think that a lot of my flickers feel kind of like I'm like, wow, this is totally my source. This feels totally like me, and then they'll fade away in a week, and I'm like, it wasn't. It wasn't me forever, but it was me for a bit. Um, so I do think I experienced that quite a bit with flickers, especially, and of course my sources. But
um, all right, conversation. Has anyone experienced a flicker that fluctuates? Yes, 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 yes. I get Cruella flickers all the time, all the time. And I haven't seen 101 Dalmatians for years. I haven't seen that film for years. But sometimes my brain just goes, if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will. And I'm like, what? And it's just a fun little flicker for an amount of time.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and like they come in and out, and I get that with Katniss Everdeen as well. Do I identify as her? No, I do not. But the flickers now make up a part of my identity in some way because they're just there, and sometimes I get flickers. So yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, there are definitely a few really important flickers to my identity. I drew three of them. There are more on that little. If you want to go look at the fancy slides and the pinned messages, um, mine is the not colored ones. Not nearly as cool as the colored ones. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but the flickers are on the bottom. And so I experience these three in specific: Live More, Bilbo Baggins, and the cat from Coraline. Because he doesn't actually have a name. But those three they've been quite important to my identity lately, and I think they'll probably continue to be that way despite not actually being types. And I think that's so cool. Um, I think it's all right to have flickers that are really, really important to your identity, even if you don't consistently identify as them. Um, it's neat stuff.
I was wondering if they can jump into the panel for a sec.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I didn't see the notification thing, so I'm gonna invite you to speak for a little bit.
Oh
Go
yeah.
wild. Did it work? Did it work? Yay!
Hello,
Hello,
Hannibal. Uh,
Hannibal. Hi.
Hi. I'm just curious because for me, like my flickers and my ficta types are often very similar. So it's like it's wondering if they kind of float together in a way. For you.
Most definitely. Um, like I don't know if anybody else experiences this, but like flickers coming off from a certain character. Like I now get flickers from so many Final Girl characters because of Danny. And if a character is similar, it's like I don't know, Danny or Felicity or Abby in some way. My brain's like, oh, is that you? Is that flicker time? Flicker time? Oh wait, no, it's not you. Okay, not flicker. Maybe flicker time. Maybe. I feel like my brain just has a moment of, is that you? Is that you? I just think that's really interesting.
I agree with that actually fully. I'm
Mhm.
reading chat. Oh, it gets
Same.
so messy sometimes. I get so confused. I'm like, oh man, where are the questions? And then I have to like
Stuff.
scroll back up to them. But um, interesting question related to flickers and fan content. Go right ahead.
Go for it.
I think we've gotten any. Oh, I wish we could there were like another channel for questions or something. I feel like I keep
Yeah, that'd be
losing them.
great.
Yeah, I am sorry if I do lose them. Oh wait, here I'll
Oh,
accept.
yes, you do.
Hi, you get to hear my cool voice again.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. I'm so sorry. Okay. Sorry, I'm forming it in my head. I'm forming a cohesive statement in my head. Sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry.
No
Don't worry.
worries.
Sometimes it takes me a second because I'm super neurodivergent.
Oh yeah, that's fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, very
Um,
respectable. I Forming questions can be it's a process.
It's a
It's a process.
process, and this entire time my brain's just been like
Yeah,
thinking of new words.
I've had the
So that is
Firefox
totally
loading.
okay.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, sure,
All
go
right,
for it.
campers. Does anyone here ever get flickers not from just consuming the source, but specifically from consuming fan content related to it? Like you don't get a flicker from the source, but then you read you get fan content, and then you get a flicker from that.
Let's see if there's
That's very interesting.
I had a question channel. Bless your heart. Sorry, was just added a question channel. Bless, okay.
Oh, thank you so much. Legend behavior.
Yes. Anyone who has questions, go to the questions dash channel.
Mhm.
Go for
Can I
it.
stay here for a minute? I like being here. Sorry.
Yeah, you can hang out for a bit. Yeah, I've never actually experienced flickers from fan content alone. Seems really neat. I usually get flickers and then it'll be actually I think for the most part it's my types are most influenced by fan content. I don't know if my flickers are, but it's a neat concept because I think fan content tends to be it's adjacent to the content that's in the source, but I think it's really cool how it's slightly different, and so getting flickers of a character that's strictly fan content is kind of this
Mhm.
little isolated petri dish where it might be different than a flicker you would experience strictly from the character in canon.
Oh, I have a related
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
That's like tangentially related.
Oh
That's
yeah, go
okay.
for it.
Does anyone here get flickers of specifically AU versions of the character, like alternate universe versions, like specifically those, like not just versions from fan content, but specifically like an alternate universe version?
Yeah,
That's really interesting.
yeah, it's interesting stuff. I don't know if I've ever experienced that one again, but yeah,
Mm. I
neat
feel like
stuff.
because my one of my sources I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say Full Equestria is a source for me. That is fan content. That is a piece of crossover fan fiction. Um, and so while that's like its own little thing, um, it is also fan fiction at its core. It's a My Little Pony full on crossover fan fiction. Let's be real here.
So neat.
So
It's so
yeah,
neat.
it's so cool. It's so cool.
I really
I
do appreciate it.
all my love
Me
for
when I
fan
got the
fiction.
fucking Danganronpa My Little Pony crossover type.
Mhm.
Pensive emoji. Pensive emoji.
But yeah,
Mhm.
AUs are very interesting. Just I feel like the way that
Yeah.
I will count our AU as a funky fanfic run. Yes, yes, I do.
Before I leave, can I howl?
Hmm?
I think
Before
you
I
Absolutely.
leave, can I howl?
Yes.
yeah, go for it. I'm gonna turn my volume down
I'm
really
gonna
quick.
say volume warning.
Yeah, volume warning a bit. Go for it.
I'm trying to get my vocal cords ready. Give me a sec. Do me the quiet ones. Get my vocal cords ready.
Yeah.
Oh, oh.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Hell
very
yeah.
much.
Thank you, thank you.
Phineas Flynn confirmed furry. Anyway, bye.
Okay, another question. Any advice for people
Question.
who feel uncomfortable talking about their source, for exotrauma, or embarrassing reasons? Um, I feel like advice, I found it a lot easier because I also used to be very embarrassed about it because I didn't think anybody else experienced this. I was like, oh, I don't want to be like invalidating to people who like have like, trauma that's not source related. Like, I also felt embarrassed to talk about it, and I feel like something that was really good for me was talking and just hearing people who have like also have source related trauma, just listening to how they feel about it. And the more I listened to them talk about their experiences, the more I was like, huh, maybe I'm not so weird. And just getting used to the idea of it really. And then I just started sort of talking about it and becoming more comfortable with the idea of it being there. Because it is a huge part of the way I experience my picture types. So I feel
For
like
sure.
it was just sort of coming to terms with it and accepting it thing. And as a part of me, and as I did that, I got more comfortable talking about it. I
Yeah.
thought that was a wonderful.
For me personally, I think it can be really, really helpful to have a private space where you can write it down. I think a lot of the time with things that I'm either somewhat embarrassed about or for some reason feel ashamed of, or just with the source where I feel like I don't want to share it with other people, which by the way
Yeah,
is totally okay. Um,
absolutely.
Writing it down in a notebook, having a little kin book, decorating it. I have some fun with, a bit of topography and, making it look all fun and nice, so then when I look back on it, I can be like, "Oh, hell yeah, I do have taste." But,
Yeah,
having a private space, and if eventually your goal is to talk about it with other people, starting small like that, and then you could move to just talking to people in private message about it who are are comfortable
absolutely.
with it, but also, I highly recommend having some sort of a private account where you curate who follows you, who you follow. I use Instagram primarily, but I do have a Fictionkin account on there, um, where I
Yeah.
just
No,
I
I
share a lot of the feelings. So yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
You don't have to talk about it, but if you want to, there are ways of becoming more comfortable with doing that. I
Yeah,
feel
work makes a wonderful point in
personally.
chat. Sorry for that interruption. Yeah, it said your identities don't have to be for public consumption.
That's
Yep,
so
they
important.
don't need to be.
100% agree.
Yeah.
In the spirit of the other con hell, I'm gonna bark. So bark warning. There might be a little volume thing here. Give me a sec.
Give us a bark.
There we go. A bark. A bark for your troubles. Bark, bark, bark.
A bark. I think it might have cut
Bark,
out
bark, bark.
at
Oh
your part.
no!
I'm
Let
not
me
gonna
try.
lie to you. Yep. I
I'll
think
give
it
you a
did.
growl. I'll see
Yeah.
if that gets picked up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Did
there
that
we go. We
happen?
got it. We got the growl.
Hey! You got a
Yeah.
growl. You
Thank
got
you
a
for the
growl.
growl. Um,
You go,
yeah,
princess.
maybe after the panel,
Mhm,
we'll just open it up to, I mean, if staff is okay, just letting
mhm.
folks come in here and help. But for now we'll
See
continue
if
with
anybody.
any more questions if folks do have them. And if not, we can
Mhm.
always wrap it up. Oh,
Yeah.
we've got one. How does being fiction can interact or not with your other identities? Do you want to go first
Ooh,
or should
I
I?
would love to.
Yeah,
Go into the questions. There we go. Questions channel.
yeah,
Okay, cool.
there it is.
Um, or not with your other identities. I feel like Clover is really interesting to me. Like you can see in the little doodles I did, I will draw my fictotypes as foxes, and I'll draw them as animals. Um, A, because I can't draw people, but also because it's just nice for me to be able to see my fictotypes in a way that maybe I can understand, in a way that makes me look at them and go, oh yeah, me. Like, I know I've done doodles of Abigail as a coyote, and just being able to look at her and go, oh yeah, me lol. It's just nice, and I feel like putting together my fiction identities and my animal identity just as two is just very nice, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I
Mhm.
I draw humans quite a bit, but for this panel, because Peregrine had drawn her little sketches first, and so I was like, okay, I'll stay on brand. Um,
Hell yeah.
and so I did draw them all as animals. But if you notice, they're all canines, and that's such a big part of my identity that I think for almost all flickers that I have. I mean, they're not all canines. There is a cat, but for a lot of the flickers that I experience them from the lens of a coyote, as I am,
Mhm.
and not literally, of course, but in the sense that I kind of I perceive a lot of the characters that I, at some point, have seen myself as myself, which I see myself as a coyote. It was a bit of a trail there, but I think my theory and identity plays so much into my fiction canon identities. And I actually would I'll send this into chat really quickly. If I can find it. I did this little blob thing that Orb had started. Um,
Oh
Well,
yeah.
then, where they
Oh,
bleed into each
yes.
other. Let's see if I can
I
find
love
it.
your gloves.
Oh, thank you, thank
I
you. I
always
love
get
my
these
gloves.
gloves.
I'm searching,
And
I promise.
just the way that like fiction identities interact with each other. Because I know that's a big thing. I sort of see my identities, my fiction identities, as like a weird tree thing. It starts with Felicity Fox, queen bitch that she is, and just branches off to Danny, who I like to think I have my three fiction. I have Abigail Hobbs, Danny Addo, and Felicity Fox. Felicity sort of started it all. And then whenever I see a character that's similar to her, my brain's like, is that you?
Yeah.
um, and then there's Danny, who is quite different from Felicity. And then there's Abigail, who just bridges the gap between both of them. And that's kind of just the way my identities interact with each other. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's very neat. I sent my blob into chat,
Yes, the
and
blob.
the blob. The blobs don't actually need to be like drawn. That's not how it started. I'm just a little extra. Um,
It looks so
and
cool.
thank you, thank you. My coyote identity blends into every single facet of everything, but my fictional identities also blend into my coyote identity, more so
Mhm.
the Castiel bit. Um, I just I just draw myself in a trench coat consistently, uh, and I
Amen.
think that's as deep as I can get. That's it. Thank
Yeah.
you to everyone who's like, "That looks epic." Thank you.
Coyote noises.
Yeah.
Always. Always.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
What is being the yote if not being the only one screaming whilst everybody else howls very nicely?
Mhm. Yep.
This post was made by
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like oh, just kidding, just kidding. Sometimes it glitched with the link for a second there, but I think it works. Yeah, honestly, being a coyote is just that's it.
Agree. Does anybody have any other questions? If not, I'm thinking maybe we should start wrapping
Yeah,
up.
final questions, before we head off. I think
Mhm.
it's been lovely so far, but
Wasn't it?
we'll see. Before I wrap up, get all get
Mhm.
all sentimental, vaguely sentimental on you
Final
folks.
question time.
Yeah, come on, final questions. Ask anything Fictionkin related. Um,
Ooh, does being Felicity and Coyote blend together a bit? How do you separate them?
ooh.
I feel like yes, they do. They definitely blend together, but I feel like the one thing that separates them for me is thought. Like Felicity is very much so capable of like human thought. Like if what I think is happening, it better not be. And being a yote is just have fun, bark, 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 chase things. Just like very dumbed down, not thinking as many thoughts. So I feel like the big difference for me is oh yeah, and having phantom shifts that feel like more like the style of the film, rather than actual yo has been a big thing for me, I think. So yes, they do blend into each other, but they are quite easy to separate. If that makes sense.
That's really interesting, actually. I feel like I never properly thought about that, but yeah, Felicity isn't technically a coyote in the movies. And it's like, huh,
Mm.
I thought she was.
I thought she was.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yeah, so any last minute questions before we wrap it up? Feel free to ask them in
Any
the
last
questions channel so they don't drown.
words?
We wait. We hang out.
Is ketchup a smoothie?
No.
Um,
Final answer.
quite possibly. Is ketchup a smoothie? It depends on how you consume it. There we go. That's
It
that's
does
my 2
depend.
cents. It
Um,
does depend.
okay, it looks like it looks like we're wrapping up. So
So
I'm thinking for
oh, look,
if
just
folks
that.
wanna if folks want to howl, maybe we head into a different voice chat. Just because this one it's the confusing one, so we would have to be approving a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think we'd have to approve everybody, and that would be
Yeah.
no.
And I don't want to leave someone out. So we could migrate into staff as their preferred voice chat that you would want
and
folks to.
then we can have an awoo.
Yeah. Yep.
Perhaps. Oh, awesome.
So
Yeah.
let's see.
Fuck, fuck, fuck.
Hold on. Which categories? Oh wait, never mind.
Mhm.
I found it. Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
my
hop in
racing. Here
there.
we go.
Okay.
Hey guys. What's up? Oh. Okay, can I make my statement now? Mac and cheese is a stew. Is a stew.
Nobody got that reference. Nobody got that reference. My talent is wasted.
Stew. It's like soup, but more solid. It's like soup, more solid.
A woos?
Oh,
Barking.
will?
I just keep thinking about
That's the Wilhelm stream.
it was
That's
Ren's
nothing,
comment
but they get my approval.
that was like on the video of us all meeting up was like, oh, I'm guessing the meowing was orb. I think that was
Yes.
That was funny.
Oh my
It was
god,
me.
Richmond Howl was this time last year. Fun fact.
Yeah. Oh neat.
Can I
He
say
howled at a
something?
guy in public and he howled back. It was pretty
Ooh,
obvious.
Richmond behavior.